All right, so I just got done watching the Hans Rosling, The Magic Washing Machine. Um, and first off, he kind of talks about um, how our lives are made easier through inventions of things such as the washing machine. He said it compares all the people in the world, says that 2 billion of them live on less than $2 a day, and also said that 1 billion lives on over $80 a day. And he talks about the different effects of how the washing machine affects people's lives, especially just because it's something so simple, some that we have, it's some very normal in our lifestyles, but how big of a deal it is, like having a washing machine and the difference between our lives when we, if we don't have one, and if we do have one. Um, I served my mission in Uruguay, and there were some people that didn't have washing machines. In some of my areas, they didn't. They just washed their clothes by hand, and it took a lot longer. Even I had to wash my clothes by hand at some points on my mission, but just having something so simple makes such a big difference. Um, he kind of goes through a couple different things. Talks about how the energy, most of the energy is being used by the richer people, and how the poor people just kind of don't use as much energy. But there are a lot of times they're the ones that have more people, more kids, and they need more of the resources, but they're not able to have them because they live in houses that don't have electricity or don't have running water. Um, he then talks about later. He talks about two things that can increase the energy use. One is the population growth, and one is by economic growth. Um, he said by 2050, hopefully each group has moved up like a category as far as energy use goes. So people that were in the washing machine category would then move up to the airplane category, and then the ones in the light bulb category would move up to the washing machine, and the ones in the poor, less than $2, they would move up hopefully to the electricity category, um, so that everyone is able to have access to electricity, and more people are able to have washing machines. And he said something mentioned at the end about how by having inventions such as the washing machine, we'll have more time to educate ourselves, to read books, to do things that we want to do, things that we like, rather than spending so much of our time on washing clothes. But I wanted to spend more time on the uh, the video by Cheryl Udon about the injustice of women. She gives lots of different examples. One about in China where they have no running water, no electricity, no bikes, and one family that couldn't even let their daughter go to school because it was $13 school fee. Um, but later it talks that same story. They talk about how the the daughter was given donations to continue in school because they wrote a story in the Time magazine, and she was able to go on through school, was able to go on and get a degree, go on and get a job, able to help out her friends, able to help out her community, all because she was able to be educated. I think that really shows the importance of being educated, especially for women. Um, just as a side note, I think by women getting educated and empowering women, having them be equal with men, puts a different perspective on a lot of different things. Because men, um, we tend to think a little more selfishly, a little more about how can I benefit from the things, and I don't know, we just have a different point of view of life. And so I think by bringing in women and making it more equal in different aspects in the government or in schools or whatever, that allows for more of a variety, more we get to see the perspectives of women, being able to see what they think and how they can better the community. Um, Later, let's see, she talks about how there are actually more men than women in the world, which I didn't know that, and how girls are affected in their child years and in their teenage years. She said there are more girls discriminated to death than there were people that died in battles in the 20th century. Um, there are many girls that are aborted before they're born. Girls die at a 50% higher mortality rate than boys from ages 1 to 5 in India. I'm sure it could be the case in other countries, developing countries around the world. Um, she brings up two things. Let's see, two important things at the end about how we can solve this problem of having women become more of the solution, and she talks about how women aren't the problem. She says um, she talks a lot about education. She says educated girls get married, they have kids, they have less kids, but their kids become educated, and there's kind of this ripple effect of the women being able to keep getting educated, and their kids being educated, and their kids being educated, and there's this positive ripple effect. Um, she read a quote, I think it was, from someone saying something to the effect of the best investment in the developing world is educating women. So obviously, this is a big deal in the developing world, is that women aren't being educated. They aren't having the same opportunities as men. The boys, they seem. She talked about a family, I think, that where the women, the girls, the baby girls weren't healthy, or they were dying off, or they were probably talking. She was probably talking about the girls that died 50% higher mortality rate than boys from ages 1 to 5. The boys seemed to be fine, but the girls were dying off. And I can't remember if she talked about why, but that's just an interesting fact. She also talked about women mortality, the mortality rate um, of women during childbirth, and she said it was usually because they were poor and living in rural areas, and um, just because of their circumstances. Um, one thing that she said at the very end there was that there are a few things that can raise your level of happiness once you have all your materialistic needs. But she said one is to contribute to a cause greater than yourself, and the second one was that because of the great fortune that we have great responsibility to reach out and help others. Um, I feel like I feel like in America we're doing pretty well as far as women inequality goes. I feel like we are being more equal. There's still obviously more men in government, and but I don't feel like we're limiting women in jobs or as teachers. But I feel like worldwide, maybe that is something that is a big concern, especially in the developing countries. Um, and so I think overall, the big thing is to educate women, to help them to get the education that they need, not limit them because they're women and they're just going to be working on rice paddies the rest of their lives. We need to help them to gain the education so that they can make a positive impact on the community and on the world.